This is Hannibal here from the HannibalTV.com, and today I am going to do a review of Dave Meltzer's 2024 Wrestling Observer Newsletter Awards, which, from my understanding, were voted by the readers, and these awards are based on January 1st, 2023 to December 31st, 2023. So, Wrestler of the Year, Will Ospreay, and I'll give the top three. They always give the top 10. Well, I guess for Wrestler of the Year, I'll give the top 10. Will Ospreay, number one, for people that like the gymnastics style of wrestling. I'm not taking anything away from him. It's just not my style. Cody Rhodes was two, MJF three, Roman Reigns four, Bryan Danielson five, Mystico six, Seth Rollins seven, Kazuchika Okada eight, Kento Miyahara 9, Tam Nakano 10. Mixed martial arts most valuable, and I'll agree with this one, John Jones at number one. I definitely agree with that one. I'm not going to go into the others because I don't like mispronouncing people's name. Most outstanding wrestler, again, Will Ospreay. Bryan Danielson 2, Kenny Omega 3, Zack Sabre Jr. 4. So we know the type of wrestler that most of these readers like. Most outstanding fighter, Islam Makhachev. Tag team of the year, FTR. I gotta say, I find FTR extremely boring. I gotta say that. Some of these ones I'm not familiar enough to comment on, but I have seen some of FTR, and I just don't. I mean, I understand people that like fake technical wrestling. If I want to see like technical stuff, I'd rather watch MMA or grappling than fake technical wrestling. But that's just my taste. Best on interviews, Eddie Kingston. I like Eddie Kingston. MJF 2, Christian Cage 3, John Moxley 4, Cody Rhodes 5. Bryan Danielson 6, Will Ospreay 7, CM Punk 8, LA Knight 9, Don Callis 10. Promotion of the year, WWE 1, AEW 2, New Japan 3, CMLL 4, UFC 5. I guess they're mixing promotions of MMA and wrestling. All Japan 6, Stardom 7. Best weekly television show, AEW Dynamite 1, AEW Collision 2, WWE SmackDown 3, CMLL 4, NXT 5. I have to say, from what I've seen of the NXT show, I really did not like it personally. Raw 6, Rampage 7, New Japan on Access 8. Match of the year has been voted Kenny Omega versus Will Ospreay, January 4th in Tokyo. Match of the year number 2, Kenny Omega versus Will Ospreay, June 25th in Toronto. Number 3, MJF versus Bryan Danielson, March 4th in San Francisco. MMA Fight of the Year, Alexander Volkanovski versus Islam Makhachev from February 11th in Perth, Australia. The United States Canada MVP, Cody Rhodes, number 1. Number 2, Bryan Danielson. Number 3, MJF. Number 4, Roman Reigns. Number 5, John Moxley. I mean, as far as most valuable players to the company, that's the one I agree with most so far. As far as people that are valuable to companies, Cody Rhodes has been there. He's been a workhorse for WWE, and Bryan Danielson. Yeah, from what I understand, he's one of Tony Khan's right hand man. The Japanese MVP is Will Ospreay. The Mexico MVP is Mexico. The Europe MVP, Will Ospreay. The non-heavyweight MVP, El Hijo del Vikingo, who I've heard is injured. And I'm not going to get into the other names because I don't really know how to pronounce most of them. Women's Wrestling MVP, Rhea Ripley. Number 1, Julia. Number 2, Athena. Number 3, and I mean, I've heard of Julia only because I hear her New Japan contract's almost running out, and looks like she's going to WWE. Rhea Ripley, I mean, she's being pushed to the moon by WWE. Women's MVP MMA, Alexa Grasso. Feud of the year, Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens versus the Bloodline. To the Observer readers, that's what they voted. The best off box office draw in MMA, John Jones. Pro wrestling, Roman Reigns. Yeah, can't argue with those. Most improved, number 1, Julia Hart. Number 2, Dominic Mysterio. Number 3, Maria May. I'm not familiar with Julia Hart or Maria May. Most charismatic, number 1, they voted MJF. 2, Roman Reigns. Then it gets into names I can't pronounce. The Bryan Danielson Award for Best Technical Wrestler goes to Bryan Danielson. The Bruiser Brody Memorial Award for Best Brawler goes to Jon Moxley. The Best High Flyer goes to El Hijo del Vikingo. Most overrated, number 1 is Sonata. Number 2, Roman Reigns. Number 3, CM Punk. Number 4, Tyrus. Number 5, MJF. Number 6, Austin Theory. Number 7, Nia Jax. Number 8, Chris Jericho. Number 9, LA Knight. Number 10, Jake Lee. I do not know who Jake Lee is. As far as being overrated, Austin Theory is definitely overrated. For most underrated, Chad Gable is number 1. Rookie of the Year, Yuma Azia. And I'm sorry, cannot pronounce this. Best non-wrestler, number 1 was John Callis. Number 2, Paul Heyman. Hey, why am I not on this? I noticed that they put some announcers on this. I should be on there. Be a great shoot interviewer, although everyone mentioning that is pretty good. Best TV announcer, Excalibur won. Interesting. I'm not all that familiar with it. Worst television announcer, Booker T, someone put. Kevin Patrick, number 2. Number 3, they put Jim Ross. I mean, I haven't heard any recent stuff of Jim Ross's. Obviously, he's had a hell of a lot of health issues. So I'm not going to hold any of that against him. For Kevin Patrick, I found it surprising that they would put in a guy with an Irish accent from the very start. A guy with an Irish accent commentating an American show. For best major show, the winner was AEW Revolution, March 5th in San Francisco. Worst wrestling show, they're saying WWE Crown Jewel November 4th in Saudi Arabia. Number 2, NWA Samahain, or however you pronounce it, October 28th in Cleveland. Although that was the best crowd I've seen NWA have. But from everything, like I've seen some clips from that show, I can't really argue with it. And then it goes on, but I've best wrestling maneuver, surprise, surprise, Will Ospreay, Hidden Blade, number 1, number 2, Will Ospreay, Stormbreaker, number 3, Kenny Omega, One Wing Angel. So there you go. There's it gets into some okay, we did best wrestling maneuver. Most disgusting promotional tactic. They put WWE putting Vince McMahon back into power and keeping him in power through TKO. Number two, they put in WWE's relationship with Saudi Arabia. Everyone's working with Saudi Arabia. I understand the controversies, but they're all making a crap load of money. Number three, NWA's controversial spot with James Mitchell, which was bizarre. Worst television show, NWA Power number one, WWE Raw number two, WWE NXT number three, Power Slap number four, AW Rampage number five. Worst match of the year, Bray Wyatt versus LA Knight, January 28th in San Antonio. Believe that's the one with the botch finish with Mr. Howdy, who seems like a really nice guy. Uncle Howdy, I should say, who is Bray Wyatt's brother. He seems to have fallen off the map since his sad, unfortunate passing of Bray Wyatt. Worst feud of the year, MJF versus the Devil. I know John Paz will agree with that one. Worst promotion of the year, NWA. Best Booker, they're saying Paul Levesque. Number two, Tony Khan. Number three, John Manuel Marr. And then it gets into names I can't pronounce. Promoter of the year, number one, Nick Khan. Number two, Tony Khan. Number three, Dana White. Nick Khan definitely is a great promoter. Top gimmick, they're saying Tony Storm. Number two, Christian Cage. Number three, Orange Cassidy. Number four, the Bloodline. I find, I mean, I have nothing against Christian Cage, but honestly, none of those gimmicks I find interesting. Worst gimmick, the Devil. I've heard the Devil compared to the Black Scorpion. A lot of people hated the Devil. Best pro wrestling book, The Last Real World Champion by Tim Hornbreaker. Todd is God by Todd Gordon, number two. And he's talked about that book on this channel. Best pro wrestling documentary. Oh my God, the one I was in made number 8. Dark Side of the Ring, Abdullah the Butcher made number 8. Wow. So technically I'm on this list in some capacity or another, although I did not like the Dark Side of the Ring. Number 1 was Dark Side of the Ring, Chris and Tammy, but I made this for number 8. I was heavily featured in number 8. So there you go. Let me know what you guys think of those lists. Hello, Leo. How long has Dave Meltzer been running the Observer? Since at least 1988. They have some electronic copies in their archive, which by the way people could subscribe to. Since it's up to 88, although I'm sure they're around before then. Christopher Light the Gorilla Monsoon and Bobby Heenan. I liked Bobby Heenan and Jesse Ventura. They'd be up there as two of my all-time favorites. If Ronnie Garvin isn't ranked 2024's best wrestler with Hands of Stone, he's an idiot. Well, that's I don't think I haven't heard of Ronnie Garvin injury or wrestling or even punching anyone in 2024. He's been keeping pretty quiet. But God bless you, ATF Media, keeping Ronnie Garvin's name out there. And thanks for tuning in, guys. Please give this video